Good morning, everyone. I trust that you are all well. Lovely to see you this bright morning. Today's learning is dedicated in memory of all those whose Yortzeit falls today, as well as all those we are saying Kaddish for in the community. So I want to share a couple of thoughts today. I'm conscious of the fact that tomorrow it is highly unlikely that we will be meeting. I'm going to be away, and therefore I'm not sure that I will be able to, at exactly 9 o'clock, be able to transmit a message. So assume that we are not doing it tomorrow, if that's okay with everyone. Please God, we'll be back on Thursday. Okay, so good morning, Clarice. Lovely to see you. So let's make a start. So Clarice, you just missed it, but I said that tomorrow I'm away. There's a rabbinical conference in Paris, so all the rabbis will be there. Everyone's out of town. I will try to do a message, but I can't guarantee. Good morning, Carol. So let me make a start. You know the world over, everyone knows about Tisha B'Av, the mourning over the destruction of the temples, the fact that it's a very sad period for the Jewish people, and even the most secular Jews. It's very interesting. I don't know if you've ever spent Tisha B'Av in Israel, but I've been at the Western Wall, I've been at the Kotel on Tisha B'Av, and the most far removed people from Judaism that you couldn't imagine would be interested in coming to the Kotel. On Tisha B'Av, they come. They don't necessarily pray, but they wear one of those paper couples on their heads out of respect. And because there are hundreds of thousands of people that are coming, they all feel an urge to come to the Kotel. Good morning, Stan. Good morning, Carol. I was just saying that on Tisha B'Av, it's quite a unique day in that the fast over the destruction, over all the tragedies that have befallen our people, is something that pulls at the heartstrings. And even those Jews that are, very far removed, you will see them making their way through the throngs of people to the Western Wall, just to stand there and pay their respects. So the Shulchan Aruch says something very interesting. He says in the beginning of Orach Chaim, he says as follows. And he says, Roi lekol yirei shamayim. It's fitting that every God-fearing person should mourn over the destruction of the temple every day. That's what he says. The Chidushei HaRim, one of the Hasidic masters, Stan, he asked as follows. He said, what do you mean it's fitting for every God-fearing person? Every Jew is obligated to mourn over the destruction of the temples. Every Jew is is expected to commemorate, the tragedies that have befallen our people. So why is it that it says specifically a God-fearing person? And he answers that the idea is that when it comes to a God-fearing person has to mourn over the destruction of the temple, the national mourning. A non-God-fearing person, and a person who's very far removed, should mourn over his own personal temple that's been destroyed. In other words, we are meant to make ourselves into a conduit, a vestibule, a vehicle for the sanctification of God's name and for God resting in our midst. And if we don't do so, then we should, rather than mourn about the national catastrophe, we should mourn over our personal tragedy and catastrophe. Good morning, Andy. Good morning, Rachel. Rachel, I'm glad you're joining us, because I was just explaining earlier that tomorrow morning I'll let you into a little secret. There is a rabbinical heritage trip led by the chief rabbi tomorrow. We haven't had it for 4 or 5 years. So we are all heading on the Eurostar at 4:45 in the morning, and we will be going to Paris. So I am not sure where exactly I'm going to be at 9 a.m., which is 10 o'clock in France. If I can do a message, great. If not, then you'll have to excuse me. Now, I know that Rachel has Yortzeit tomorrow. Rachel, wish you long life. And therefore, we'll dedicate today's learning, if you don't mind, in memory of Tzippa Bas Eliyahu Shlomo, because I think it's highly unlikely running around Paris that I'm going to be able to stop this group of 100 rabbis and security and say, hold on, right now, I've got my dear friends in London and I need to sit down and to do learn and pray. But if I can, I will. You know that. This is the highlight of my day. I love being with all of you. David, good morning. I presume that you've been away making deals for Spurs. Okay, so we already mentioned one idea. Now I want to share, and the first idea we said was that a God-fearing person mourns over the destruction of the temple, which is a national catastrophe, and a non-God-fearing person should just mourn over their personal tragedy, the fact that they are so far removed. In fact, they tell the story about, you may have seen the beautiful Nathan Pinnock from our community, Sam's son, Sam and Richard's son, I should say, and he did the Acts of Kindness program, the 21-day program that Giller's initiated. He did yesterday in his army uniform, sitting on a bus. Quite inspirational to see it. And at the time when, after the 6-day war, we got back the old city, we got back the Kotel. And for 2,000 years, we hadn't been able to actually have Jerusalem under our own jurisdiction and self-rule and autonomy, and it was, you know, a momentous moment. And when they arrived at the Western Wall, you may have seen the pictures of Shlomo Goren blew the shofar, and the Jews, the religious Jews, they recognized the significance of that moment, being able to pray and touch the Western Wall. There was euphoria, and they were crying with joy. And the secular Israelis that had come from kibbutzim, they'd never seen anything like it. They had no idea, what was going on. But they started to cry, and they were crying uncontrollably. And so their more religious, friends that were in the army with them, their contemporaries, they said to them, "Listen, we know why we're crying. We're crying because we realize the significance. We understand what the Kotel is. We understand what's going on." And why, they said to them, "But why are you crying?" They said, "You crying because you understand. We're crying because we don't understand. We're crying because we don't even realize what we've lost." And that's the situation that I think we all find ourselves in when it comes to Tisha B'Av and it comes to the 3 weeks. We're very far removed. We all, I speak about for myself as well. It's very hard to relate to it. There's a story which is well documented about Plato. Plato, there was a great philosopher, wasn't he? And the story goes that he lived at the time of Jeremiah, and of course Jeremiah was a great prophet and philosopher of Jewish stock. And after the destruction by the Babylonians of the temple was in ruins, smoldering, and Jeremiah was sitting there crying, bemoaning the fate of the Jewish people. Temple had been destroyed, God's presence had left, and he's crying on the floor in the rubble. And Plato arrives and he says to him, "Jeremiah, I don't get it. You're a great man. Why are you crying over bricks and mortar? It's beneath you. You get up and eventually you'll rebuild it. You'll get some builders and you'll rebuild it eventually after, in the fullness of time." And Jeremiah says, "You don't get it. Tell me your three, you're a philosopher, you're a great thinker. Tell me the greatest philosophical questions that remain unanswered in your mind." And Plato instantly told Jeremiah the 3 greatest questions that throughout his life he'd grappled with and struggled with and hadn't managed to make head or tail. And Jeremiah instantly was able to give him the answers to these questions. And Plato said to him, You're a prophet of the Jewish people, a holy man. How did you know the answers to these questions? I've been struggling with them all my life as a philosopher, and I can't work them out." Jeremiah says, "You know where the answer to those questions came from? It's not from me. It's from what used to be in that rubble, God's presence. That's how I was able to answer it." And with that, it's documented. Plato sat down next to Jeremiah, apparently, and they both cried. Plato was crying for a different reason, but they both recognized the loss. So it's very hard for us in the coming days and weeks to be able to relate to the 3 weeks, to relate to the destruction of the temple. Just to be clear, when we're mourning in this period, and in particular on Tisha B'Av, friends, it's not just a mourning over 2 temples. We've already mentioned we're mourning over the loss of that relationship. but we're also mourning over every tragedy that befell our nation. It all comes from the same place, from the exile, from the fact that we are in a very dark place, until we are eventually will be worthy of redemption. So if we think about all the tragedies, the Holocaust, Tachvatat, the pogroms, the terrible bombings in Israel, the terrorist attacks, the wars that Israel's had, everything that, York, and you can go on and on and on, all the tragedies that have befallen our people across the millennia. This is what we are mourning about. And we're mourning about the fact that we're not there yet. If the temple's not being rebuilt, it means that we're still not worthy. And therefore, our job, if it was destroyed, as we know, and we'll discuss it another time, because of mindless hatred, Jews couldn't get on with one another. It's interesting, the second temple was destroyed, not because somebody, didn't open the ark in the right way, or didn't, or didn't, keep kashrus the way they should. You know why it was destroyed? Because Jews couldn't get along with each other. That's what the Talmud tells us, because of mindless hatred. I'm in my group, you're in your group. I don't respect you. I can't possibly have anything to do with you. And there wasn't that mutual respect of the differences between different factions and fractions. And it led to catastrophe. We imploded. I always say, and you recall this, that as much as the other nations have destroyed and attacked us over the course of the millennia, the greatest threat to Jewish existence is Jews themselves. We are masters of our own destiny. If we decide that we want to do something, nothing stands in our way. God will guide us and help us every step of the way. You only have to look at the state of Israel. Have you been to Israel recently? It is literally at the cutting edge when it comes to tech. It is one of the most advanced, innovative, creative, dynamic industries and countries and economies in the world. It's booming, it's thriving. The pound is so strong, and the prices there are ridiculous. Baruch Hashem, it's incredible. When Israel wants to build, when Jewish people want to do something, they do it. When Jews wanted to stand up in the Bar Kokhba revolt, when Jews wanted across the millennia, Hanukkah story, Purim story, whatever it is, when we decide, we put our minds to it, and we stand together as one, nothing stands in our way. And that's my I guess my last thought for the day. That please God, we should all be able to renew our commitment to be kinder and nicer and more respectful of each other. I'm not talking about just people in our community. You see a chassid, you see somebody to the left, somebody to the right, somebody Israeli, somebody Italian, whatever they are. We're all Jews, and we've got to get over that and try and respect and love each other. That's the challenge of the day. Let's just find the sheets very briefly. I hope these are the right sheets. Okay. And sorry, it's slightly longer today than tomorrow. If I can do it by the Eiffel Tower tomorrow, wouldn't that be something? But if I can't, I won't, then you'll excuse me, but we'll try. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even as I walk in the valley of death, the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You set a table before me in the presence of my adversaries. You anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord for length of days. Adon olamim zecho es nishmas. Sipa pas elio shlomo shalcho li olamam adabal rachamim. Tasirei b'tzeitzek kanafech li olamim v'tzirachem misashmasam. V'yanucha mishkosam b'shalom v'namar amen. Lastly, for Shlema prayer to all those that are unwell. Misha Berachov Sin Rav Mitzvah Yaakov Moshe Aaron David Shlomo Yitvarech Repes Ochelim Babu Shanu Mispalim Babu Ram Mitzvah Kadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachim Aleichem Lachma Leposam Yishlach Lemefushlim Shemaim Melechol Levrei Mezach Shoy. So Rufus and Nefesh Agov Hashavas and Karif and Nama. Amen. Long life wishes. Okay, Andy, I don't know if on the Chief Rabbi's itinerary it is PSG Stadium. I know we're going to the Great Synagogue of Paris, where actually you may be interested. On Shabbat UK, we had a guest Chazan called Chazan Yedidya Bloom, who was in Switzerland, and now he just got this plum position as the Chazan of the Great Synagogue of Paris, which we're going to. So hopefully I'll be there at 9 o'clock tomorrow, your time, so that I can deliver a message. But I don't know if PSG is going to be on the agenda, and seeing Neymar, I can't guarantee he'll be in the video. Anyways, lastly, Refuah Shlema prayer. Mi shever chaveseinu Avraham Yisrael Yaakov Moshe David Shlomo Yivarech Rapes Achelim Babu Shenem Espalim Baburam V'Yitzchak HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yivalei Rachem Aleihem Melachim V'Otzam Yishlakim V'Shlem Shemam Lechalevim B'Shach So Yisrael Pesach V'Shukov Hashvagas Makariv and Omar Amen. So à bientôt, enchanté, and au revoir. And please God, we will try to see you tomorrow. And if not, I'll see you 10 to 9 on Thursday. Take care. All the very best.